Testing 1 2 3. Testing audio 1 2 3. Checking to see if the music audio is too loud. Think I can go up here. Checking 1 2 3. Check check check. Testing audio 1 2 3. Testing audio 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Checking YouTube real quick. Checking YouTube audio 1 2 3. Checking YouTube audio 1 2 3. Checking with YouTube audio 1 2 3. Checking YouTube audio from normal mic levels. Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. My name's Aaron LeBeau. I'm a developer advocate at Couchbase. I'm going to put my headphones on instead of these ear pods so I can hear things. But yeah, I'm sorry. It took me a couple minutes to get the audio checked. You never know what's going on with that. And I want to make sure that it's viewable or hearable for everybody. People forgive some things, but they won't forgive bad audio. Let me see here if I can. Check 1 2 3. Check 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 check. I think that should make it so you can hear it, but I can't, which is good. All right, let's see here. Hey everybody in the chat, welcome. Sorry, like I said, it took me so long to get this going, but we should be up and running. And if you can't hear audio, let me know right away. That's probably important. Sorry, I'm gonna post something on LinkedIn real quick. Post something on Twitter, forgot to post it on LinkedIn. Working. Yeah. YouTube is behind quite a bit, but that's fine. All right, so that's cool. You can watch the chat there. That's that. Let's see here. I've got documentation here, and I can see what's going on with the stream down there. All right, we're ready to go rock and roll here. All right, so today what we're up to, need to write the query implementation for Couchbase Lite in React Native. I need to implement the Swift stuff to start out with. Sorry, rehydration break there real quick. Where are we? Well, we've been working on the stream, implementing the Couchbase Lite in React Native, using Swift and Kotlin. If I am going to be using, boy, that did not work out like I wanted it to. How do I get warp back now? Here we go. I will be implementing, I will be using warp because the terminal and the IDE is just too small for me to sometimes see like scrolling errors and stuff. But git add dump, git commit -m fixed query. Oops, that's not gonna work anyways. The link's gonna tell me not. Fixed, and then fixed. It was I fixed blob support. I should have did this before I started the stream, but I forgot. What are we saying now? Git status, git add, git status, git add. Oh, I'm in the example. Git add, git status, git. What did I change in here? Did I really change anything in that though? Let's find out. Git. I didn't change anything, so I can just revert this. Git. Let's see here. Restore. Git checkout. Man, it's cool. Git commit fixed blob support. So why did I have to do that? That's a good question if you're asking that. It's because, wait, what? It's not fixed, fix. So I've got a plugin installed to make sure that when you commit with words that work. I'm also do code signing in all my code. And so that guarantees that the code hasn't been hacked. Let's see here. So that should fix that. So what did I work on? Let's see the Expo example. I'll show you npm run iOS. That should build in a second. We got two things we can show off here. We've got a iPhone or iPad mini. And I laugh because its screen is so big that I can actually see it, which is what I love. And that's why I'm using the iPad mini as my demo. We should be able to go back here, wait for Expo to run. So this is Hermes, the server, the web server that you use for React Native development. You'll see here that's pushing the build up to there. This is my Expo example, which is kind of like a app wrapper. So now they should be running the same thing. I should be able to do this. I should be able to open test1 from a directory that opens my database. Now I've got most document support working here. So if we go to documents, I can go to the document editor. I'm going to add a document and I'm going to cheat. I've got the document off screen here on another screen that I'm going to use to cut and paste in because I don't like, well, first let's make sure that this collection exists. So let's go to list collections for test1 and test1, make sure that the test1 scope. All right, so there is no test scope in here. So let's add a collection. So let's go through and create a collection and we can say test1. Oop. We'll just call this test and test for the hell of it. There we go. We created a test scoping collection. Perfect. So now what we should be able to do is go into the document editor, say our database is called test1, our scope is test, our collection is test. So now we need a document ID. I'm just going to give it a UUID. Let's go here, pop it. And if you're a .NET developer, you'd probably hear GUID, which is fine. I mean the same thing. I could use a generated widget, but I really want to make sure that I have this, all this stuff a certain way because I'm trying to test it, right? Otherwise, I've got like some pre-generated data that you can select from in this list, and it'll just put random data in here for you so that you don't have to type it in. I'm lazy. I don't like to type unless I have to. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and do that, and we should see that the document was saved in the collection. So now what we want to do is we want to set a blob. A blob can be any kind of file, and for the sake of my testing, I'm just going to make a text file. And so I'm going to fill out my database and collection. And now I need that, once again, I need that document ID. This is why I wanted to very specifically hard code this in. Now the blob key can be anything you want it to be. I'm going to call it sample text. We do need to remember that key name. And now I can just cut and paste any kind of text in. And so what's going to happen is rather than this getting attached, let's paste that in. Allow paste. There we go. Rather than save this in the database, this would be saved as an attachment outside of the database. That's what the blob stands for. It's a binary large object. And so that's what a blob does. It's saved as attachment. You can save anything. You can save text, you can save images, you can save audio if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. Let's see here. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the play button up here, and we should get a result back. Let's see here. First argument must be type of string. What did I miss? I'm glad we debugged this because this should work. The first argument must be one of the type string, array, buffer, array, or object like received type object. Do we get the same thing over here? Over here, test one. And do the same thing. I think we have a collection over here because I've been using this. Let's go to this collection. So say test one. So there's that test collection. Go over here and go to document editor, test one, and then we'll do the same document ID. Copy it from over here. JSON doesn't really matter, but obviously we do want to be able to get that JSON data back and be able to see it. Let's go ahead and save that document. So that was saved. That's cool. So now let's go to not set expiration. We want to set a blob. Test one. We got the document, which, that's the document information, not the key. Let's grab that document key again from here. Paste it in, and then the blob keyword is going to call sample text. And the only thing I can think of is that this build may be the wrong build because you have to push the app out to get the binary out. And since I already, the native code, and since all I did was push JavaScript code, my guess is that I'm gonna have to push a new build out to that device, which would make sense, right? And if this works, that's exactly the case. What's going on here? Nope, that doesn't work there either. So let's find out what's going on here. Went to demo this off. I had it checked in and working, and now it's broke. I refactored some things, and I'm guessing that's what broke. So let's see here. Am I still in what branch am I in? I'm in documents branch. Okay, cool. Let's see here. So I think it's in the TypeScript code, and I'm guessing it's in the set function. So we can find out. Let's go back here. We know that we have a problem. Let's go to device and shake our, I want to do that. Yep, running. I want to go to shake. This will bring it up. I can go to toggle the JavaScript debugger and bring this up over here and this over here. We go to sources, and then we can go in here, find our app, and we want to go to our EXO app and in services. There's under documents, there's a service called set blob, and we can take a look at it here. So let's go in. So I changed this out to buffer because what's happening is I wanted to use the text encoder. But that's a web-only API and does not work, and so that's what I found what was happening. So I'm going to put a breakpoint right here to see whether or not it's the buffer code I changed out just less than a couple hours ago, but I tested it and it worked. So let's see here. So we are going to get a buffer text from the blob text. We should be able to see what blob text is. And so blob text should be, well, it should not be that. It should be... Wait, why would blob text be that already? It shouldn't be a bunch of bytes. It should be a string. What are we doing in the page? We should probably go take a look at the page here. It's obviously not what I expected. It should be coming as a string. So maybe my page code got goofed up, or I accidentally reverted my changes or didn't save my changes. All these things are good possibilities. So let's see here, blob. Let's go to set blob and see what happens here. That's what's going on here. I shouldn't be doing any of this in here. So this is wrong code. See, it's using the text encoder still. I changed all this code out, but somehow the device hasn't got it yet. So let's find out what's going on there. So let's go to the app and set blob and see. Nope, that's the wrong code. We can't use text encoder. We have to be able to send it in as a string. So what we want to do is just say blob text. Right, because that's the text. Is that what we're calling? Yep, blob text is what we get from state. And then we show that it encode. And we get a mutable document back, and then we validate that the mutable document's there. That's the fix. All right, let's go back here and check that. Glad I checked this. Run it again. And I am broken. I am stuck in breakpoint land because I set a breakpoint and I closed my browser, but the breakpoint's still set. Cuckabutt. Let's see here. Let's call up here. Just start it again. The file should be in a database. So I shouldn't have to do, or the document should be in a database. So I shouldn't have to rerun some of that code. Let's see here. We'll bring this back up. Both these guys back up. You can see here that this one's saying it's disconnected, which is fine. Just take a refresh. We should be able to do this. Test one. Oop. Gotta get the directory set. And then now we should go back to document and just set blob. Test one, test one, test one. The document should still be in, like I said, the database. We saved that. So we should be able to still use this sample text. And then we should be able to cut and paste this text in. And do that. All right, we've got a blob now. So we can see here that it created a blob. And we could do some cool things if we wanted to see like information about the blob, how it works and stuff. So let's copy that key. And let's just go get the document. Test one. Test one. Test one. We want this document. Paste. Now what we should notice here is that we have right here content type of text, its length, it's a sh1 key. We can see that this is the and this is the name of the blob. You can see here that sample text is the key that we gave it, and you can see that the value is this blob information, but it's not the actual blob itself. This is a pointer to it. The blob actually lives on disk as an attachment in Couchbase Lite, and it allows us to save things like photos and images without hitting database performance, right? We want to save this large binary object, but we don't want to put it in a database. And so that's what this does. This allows us to do that without taking the hampering of that. Let me go back here, make sure I just realized I don't have the chat window open. I want to make sure if anybody's asking questions. So that's what it does. So how do we see the blob though, right? Well, we got an API to do that. And that's what the get blob screen does here, is it actually pulls that API to see the blob. So we should be able to just go in, give it the document ID, give it the key that we saved the pointer to the blob in, right? And then if I run this, it should come back, and now it's run back with goobly-gook. My encoding is screwed up because that's what's going on. When I encoded in text, did I not base 64 at first? Well, these are bugs I've got to fix. So let's go back here and take a look here. When I set the blob, let's go take a look at our two services that we have for setting this. And React Native, this is kind of a mess because, like I said, in web, you could do text encoding, but in here you can't. So let's go to set blob and see what we're doing here. So we're saying buffer from, and so we're going to make a buffer from this, and the encoding is going to be base 64. Then we're going to make a new blob. We're going to give it that, this should turn into binary, so it's coming as a string. This should turn into an array buffer. This should then create the blob. This should go through, get the document, turn it into a mutable document, set the blob so that we're setting the attachment, and then resave the document and return it. So that looks right. Let's go to get blob and see what's going on here. Oop, that's not get blob. That's the page get blob. I want the function. You can see the little React icon means that it's a page versus a function. TS means it's a function. So let's get the get blob TS. All right, let's see what's going on here. So we're importing buffer in. We're getting a string back. So we go get the document. Then we go get the blob content, which will give us array buffer. We make sure it's non-defined, and then we say, give it to us in. Do I have to tell it the encoding here? Base 64. I think it's gonna get mad because let's prettify that. Oh, it's still mad. So it's saying you can give it an offset. constructor from array buffer, offset, or length. See, that's not right though, because if we look at set, that's get. Where's set? So set's down here, it gets up there. Let's make this so it's on one screen so we can see it. We can just close this. All right, so if we go down to set, and then so set, I don't think this is our pages. So let's get our pages out of here and just make it down to our function. So set, you see here we do a new blob from text. But right here, we're giving it the encoding. So in buffer from, when it's a string, we give it the encoding type, which we're setting to base 64. Now we need to decode the buffer. So that's what's going on. We need to decode the buffer. Buffer decode? There's no, I don't see a D method. What can we do? We want to give it the buffer, and then we want to decode it. So we'd want to say this is get. So this would be, it's not from text. This should be array buffer. Let's just do this to start out with. That should get us a buffer. So let's just call this buffer. And then buffer. What can we do with this? Ah, there we go. So we have to say to string base 64. Because that's what we encoded it as. Because we encoded it as base 64. That should get us back at whatever we set it in. Let's try this. There's the text. Yikes, though. So base 64 munged up. I wonder if I set it again, if this will work. Let's go back to set blob again. One thing that I did when I base 64'd it is it took all the periods and stuff out. And that would kind of make sense because it's base 64ing it. That might not be the right answer to this problem. The right answer may be to encode it in UTF-8. And I have a feeling that that's going to be the better solution. I've got to dig this key up and stuff again. Give me a second here. And we know that samples text. What we want to make for the key. Actually, let's make it sample text 1. So we can look at both. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. And what I think I need to do, well, let's first see if this happens again. If it happens again, we know that that's probably the problem. Then the fix is probably to encode it UTF-8. So that encoded it. So now we want to decode it. So we'll get the blob back. Test 1, test 1, test 1. The document key, paste. That's all the text. That's the wrong thing. Let's copy the key, which I have off in a text file off screen. That's the reason why I'm looking off screen to find it. And then blob key is sample text 1. Okay, so this has happened again. I think this is base 64 encoding. So let's go back to set blob and change this from that to UTF-8. Do I need UTF-8? I think it's -8 is the right answer. And then here I'd have to decode from UTF-8. Let's try that and see what happens. We can overwrite the attachment. That shouldn't be a problem. We actually just set detachment to nothing. That's how you clear it. So let's go back to set blob. We'll do it as test sample 2. Oop. Test 1, test 1. Get our key again. I should just make this key like the number 1. Oh, I already got the document created. Next time I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that that way. Key is sample text 2. What we're trying to do is make sure that our punctuation stuff doesn't get disappeared, right? There's one space between each one of these, and then we want our punctuation to stay. So we saved it. So this is in sample text 2. Let's go back and get it. I don't think this is a Couchbase Lite problem. I think this is an encoding and decoding problem. But our example app should work. There it is. So that was the entire problem. Base 64 when we did it, killed it, but now it's munging and coming back properly. So UTF-8, answer to our problem, and this should work over here too then. We'd have to go back over here and reload the app real quick. So give me a second here to unload it and then reload it. Like I said, if I change Swift code, this won't work. You'd have to go through and re-upload a new version of the app that has the Swift code changes in it. But we should, I think this does have it. This and over here, I think they're called test. Let's get document. Make sure that that document is saved. I think the scope and collection I call them is test, but it should be the same key, right? Try that. Okay, that is working. Okay. So we should be able to set a blob. That's 1, test, test. Paste that in. Sample text. Hello world from Aaron. Blah, blah, blah. And then foo bar. One R. Let's not get crazy. All right, let's go ahead and click the play button. And we can see here that it added it. Let's go back and get it. Test 1, test, test. Paste the key in. And then sample text. We should get back whatever that craziness I just typed in was. There we go. Hello from Aaron, blah, 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 blah. Okay, worked. So we've got all the document API stuff working for the most part. I worked on that right before lunch, and so that fix for encoding fixed the rest of it. Should have tested the encoded and make sure it worked. What we need to work on is these 3 right here, which don't do anything right now. We need to be able to do a query editor, a query explain, and then a live query. We'll worry about query editor and explain probably first only, because they're pretty hard actually. And we probably should get those quick wins in before I start going crazy and trying to get live query working, which really I need to get replicator working, and then I can work on live query, because without replicator, live query is a complete waste of time. Which is why I usually do the change stuff last, if people are wondering. I do have a couple of things like in documents there's a change listener, and then collection there isn't one, but oh yeah, there is listen to changes in collections. And I don't support the change listener databases because that's depreciated and I think it's garbage, because everything should be done in scopes and collections now. So because everything should be done in the scope and collection, you should be listening to changes on a collection, not on that. You can listen to document changes, you can listen to query changes, and then you can listen to replicator changes. And that's the trifecta, or the quadtracta of the things that you could do with change listeners. But we need to get this query editor working. Now to get it working, I need to get the Swift code working, which means we got to stop the debugger. Like I've explained before, the debugger does not do live query on Swift code. So let's go back over to Xcode land. Now that we have the explanation and we've got that fix in, I should probably also check that code in, get status, get add, dot, get commit, admin, fixed, encoding of text from base 64 to UTF-8 to fix it from eating special characters and spaces. Reassign that Commit, git push. That technically speaking is done. Like gravy. I should probably, do I have GitHub open here to be able to finish that pull request? Let me take a look here. So I shouldn't do the query changes. I should close this out, and I shouldn't do the query changes on this branch. The query changes should be revert changes. The query changes should be done in a different branch, so I should probably fix that. So let's see here. Make sure that the build's working. Give me a second here off screen. I'm checking to see if the build's working. The build is working, so we're gonna push this in. That becomes the new main. Okay. And then get checkout main, get pull. Okay, and I need to work on a new ticket. How does that work? What are you doing off screen, Aaron? Probably show this. We're gonna go to not pull requests. We're gonna go to our, well, actually we could do pull requests, our issues. So in the issues, I've got a bunch of tickets open against things I need to work on. So you keep, right here is the query ticket. So I need to make a branch for this. So I like to make a branch because if I make a branch from here, then what happens is it links to my project. So let's go back to the here. Okay, I'm linked to the project now. That's really important because what I want to be able to do is be able to go to Couchbase Ecosystem projects. This is some Git management stuff. And right here's my project. I want to be able to automatically have this stuff tell me what's being worked on. So I can move this over to in progress because that's what we're going to work on. But the cool thing is, if we look over here, document API finished, because I just merged that code in and knew that. So the only way that this happens is when the project tasks are linked to the branch. So you'll see here, it knows that this branch is in development. So when this branch merges, I've got it set up so that this task will automatically, this issue will automatically close itself and move over to done. So now if my boss, Dennis, if you're watching Dennis, hey, what's up, dude? Can see here that, hey, you know, this is what he's working on. When it's done, I don't have to do any work. I don't have to go into this board. I don't have to like move it over to done. It's magic. Now, the only thing I do have to do is say what I'm working on, right? I need to say, hey, I'm working on the query API. I'm going to also check out and say I'm going to work on index, because once I get done with query, I'll go right over to index. Then I'll finish up with replication, and then of course write in some test runners to make sure that all of our tests pass, and then magic sauce. But okay, we can see here, this is actually the wrong iteration, so we should probably go through here and change the iteration of this. Iteration is wrong. It should be iteration 4. And let's see here. Let's kill that because these are wrong. This iteration should also be iteration 4. Okay. Cool. So sprint changed on Tuesday, yesterday. So this is iteration 4, so we're one sprint behind. Replication should be also on iteration. We should be able to go into replication. That may be iteration 5. We're going to just set it to 4. We'll see if we can get it pushed out by the end of next week. Test runners will definitely be iteration 5. Go through and fix our project board real quick here. This is iteration 5, no doubt about it. All right, now that we know what we're doing this sprint, which started today, we have a pretty good idea what's going on here. We're going to do query, index, and try to get replication done, all 3 of those. Then we'll work on test runners and then Android and start to get Android up and running here. All right, let's see here. That's good on my project board. So that's what I want to do. I want to make sure my branches link to my my task, which link to my issues. And when all this links together, the magic is that everything, my boss can go just look at the project. He sees what's going on. A developer can see what and the issues and see what's going on. For me, I'm just doing pull requests and trying to get stuff working. And I'm just using the standard Git workflow, and all this stuff is automatic and everybody can see what they need to see. It's a nice world to live in when you get GitHub set up right with all your projects and your issues and stuff. I'm a super lazy developer. I want everything just to work out of the box. Let's go back into Xcode now that we've got the branch changed and we've got a new branch checked out and stuff in Magic Sauce. So we need to do some stuff here. So we need to get some SQL++ functions going here. So that's wrong. This should be called query. And this is query and execute. So first thing we have to do in a React Native module, if you're writing it in Swift, is there's a macro or a header file here that creates the link in between the Swift functions that I have over in my implementation, which is the CBL React Native, and Object-C. So this is going to do some mappings. Got to set the mappings first, the macros, so that they work. And then I can go into here and I can go into my pull down list and find the end of it'd be here, because we'll have to put it after this function because it'll be that. So actually just put a mark in for it so we know where we're going. I do like marks. Marks allow you to see in Xcode a certain part of the file. So you can just go into here and scroll down to it, and this will take to my query functions. All right. So I know I need query execute, but what parameters do I need for the query? What am I going to send in? Well, one, I'm definitely going to send in a string. That's going to be the name of the database. So there's no doubt that's going to happen. But really, this is wrong, because really it should be like, it should be named this, right? Because in Object-C, the very first thing should be the query that comes in. So this parameter should be this. If we're going to name this right, I feel like be the job big or small, do it right or not at all. That's a very famous quote from my father. And he wasn't a great person, but I'll at least use that because I do believe in that. And so what we need to do is say our very first parameter would be in a string pointer to a query. Okay. And then we'd say for database with name. That's our database name. But the second thing we need in the query is we need the parameters. Now, this is a little bonkers because the parameters are going to have to be set in a dictionary. And let me look up where, I don't remember, I do send some dictionaries somewhere else, and I need in collections. Where do I send a dictionary? Well, let's just search for NS dictionary. Okay, right here. So I do need the pointer for it. Let's copy this syntax. Can never remember. Gotta look this up. But we're gonna say this is gonna go up here, not down here. We're gonna say with parameters. Now the question is whether or not they can be optional or not. I don't know the answer to that out of the box, but parameters are optional, technically speaking. Parameters. Let's get this off the screen so we have more screen real estate. Let's close the sidebar. There. Now this looks a little bit nicer. So we're gonna say we have a query, execute query with parameters for database with name from database with name. So we're gonna use this database in order to execute this query with these parameters. But the parameters need to be optional. But we got to look at so I've got the documentation on another screen here. I'm gonna pull up the React Native documentation because I'm always afraid of this. Yeah, this doesn't look great for me. So dictionary here, you can see this is how we send in JSON basically, is via dictionary. But I'm pretty sure if I send it in a null, that it's going to freak the crap out. I know this because I had the problem with NS number. I tried to use nullables with NS number for one of my enums, and that actually fell apart on me pretty hard. So I might have to send a blank in order to get it to detect that there's nothing. I may have to trick around with this a little bit. But we know that we need parameters. Now, technically speaking, we need also another one just like this called explain. So we might as well just put it in now. Oh God, Xcode. I should just get Swift. Well, Swift won't work for this. There's a linter for Swift, but Swift linter does not fix macro files. So I like my code a certain way. So that's me. If you like yours a certain way, you be you. I like mine a certain way. I like spaces in between these. But it looks like the IDE just keeps killing this. Well, that's also wrong. Why is... No, that is right, because this would be the end of the function. So this would have to have a close bracket on it. Just checking. All right. Yeah, it looks like the IDE when I save is killing my spaces on me. Or all right, I'll take the spaces out. If it's gonna just munge the spaces on me, I'm not gonna fight it. But I really wish there were spaces. I think it's easier to read them, but that's me. Let's see here. And this would be called explain. So explaining and execute run the same way. The only difference is that if you're trying to figure out what the heck's going on with a query, you run an explain on it, and it'll give you the, hey, this is what the database tried to do to run that query. That's what explain does, which is pretty cool. If I'm trying to figure out like what's going on, maybe I'm not using the index or something like that, I definitely want to use the explain. Also, I want to turn my debugging on and get it up pretty high. I would turn the logging on the console, then probably turn on either debug or possibly verbose. Verbose is like drinking from a fire hose. Don't recommend that unless you really know what you're doing, but at least debug will give you a pretty decent idea of what's going on. Apologize while I drink some soda there. Excuse me. There we go. Sorry. The mixer's way over here now. I have to reach like this to get to the mixer. I rearranged my desk a couple weeks ago. All right, so that's done. So our two macros are there. Now we've got to go through and write this darn thing. This is never fun. So let's start from scratch. Object-C. We need to map it to an Object-C function. There's no way around this. In React Native, that's how it works. If you don't do it, it's just not going to work. So we need this right here. So we can type this out or we can copy it, but we're going to have to completely modify it because you don't need the parameter names. So we're going to take the parameter names out because we just need the function name. And so technically speaking, the function name is basically the names without the parameters, the types basically. And we take this out. Oop. And then we say this. That is the name of the function, technically speaking, in the land of Object-C. So now we say func, and we say query execute. And this is where we can make our Swift function. And our Swift function is going to take the same parameters in, right? So we need here, if we looked here, we had NS, or a query from a type NS. Oh, no, I'm doing this right. Query from NS string. We had a parameters, which was a dictionary. So parameters NS dictionary. We had a name, which was a database, a string. And a string, and then we need our resolver and rejector. And so those I am going to cheat and just cut and paste those because I'm super lazy and I don't have to type all that out. And those are escaping. That looks cool. So now we've got a start of our function, and now we got to tell it to do some work. So we're going to steal this code here too because this is needed. So what the heck does that do? If you're wondering that, I'll explain in a second. So in the world of React Native, there are two magical threads that run. There's a thread that does backgrounding things and the thread that's used for syncing and doing the rendering and the fibers and all that good stuff, right? Well, in Ionic, for example, another framework that uses web views, there's only one thread, the main UI thread. And so you want to get off the main UI thread as much as possible. My problem is that even the two React threads are pretty... could be pretty busy, and I don't want to hang my app. So any work that I do to the database, I need to get off the thread, the React thread, either the Fiber thread or the background thread onto my own custom thread. So what I've done is I've made a queue, a dispatch queue here, just called com CB Lite React Native background queue. And I'm gonna run all my database code on that queue. And the theory would be is that, okay, now I'm not going to munge myself up with all the queue stuff going on for React. I'm gonna run on a separate queue, and I can guarantee that my stuff is coolio. Now, I have some code that will give back the name without doing any work. And it's somewhere up here. It's a data adapter. So let's go here and see. That's a collection adapter, but we need a data adapter for database only. And that'd be database open, I think would have it. Database open would have more than I need. I need database close. This would have the adapter code in it that I care about. Okay. And we're gonna have to write a new adapter because we need to adapt out the query and the parameter itself. And so let's go back here to just get ourselves started. And we want to be able to do that. And now what this will do is this will pull out the database name and convert it from a string to a string to a string, because that's what my shared library uses. My shared library is written in pure Swift. So I've got the CBL.js Swift. That is a pure Swift library. It uses all Swift data types. It's the best of Swift, all the Swift hits, like Taylor Swift. Nothing like Taylor Swift, actually. That's pretty rude. It's not like that at all. But it's all the good stuff that's pure Swift. It doesn't have any Object-C, NS objects, any of that crap in it. So I need to adapt my NS objects over to Swift objects that I can play around with. So that's why I have this data adapter class. We're gonna bring this person out here and get this person ready for editing. You'll see here, if I go here and take a look instead of the data adapter, we look for data adapter. Then from here, we want to go and see adapt. There should be a database name here. Yep. So see here, this is pretty simple. We go through, try to get a string version of the database name. If this were to break for any reason, we check the database, make sure the database name worked, and if it did not work, then we throw back an error. Otherwise, you know, we'll set this error equal to true, and then they'll know that, hey, something went wrong with this, right? And then we take the reject object in because the reject object is going to call, and then all we have to do is just return out of this. So this person's doing the adapting and the error checking for us. It's like a personal manager of doing things that I don't want to have to do. In my CBL React Native, its job is just to call things, right? It's like a manager. It's just traffic duty. It's just trying to direct traffic in the right direction. It doesn't have the job of actually doing any of the work whatsoever. And by doing that, if I design it this way, I have code reuse, right? Because my adapter I'm using all over the place. I have many times I need to grab a database name from arguments. So by making this adapter's job to do that, then I don't have to worry about cutting, pasting code and reusing code. That's all important to me. I'm lazy. I want to have to do the least amount of work. So let's see here. So we need to make a new adapter function for query though, because we need to adapt query. So you'll see here, this adapts back to NS dictionary. I don't think I have any examples that I've already written for adapting a dictionary. I've got some complicated ones. You can see here, this takes a number and turns it into an enum. I've got some ones that adapt the scopes and collections. There's some more enum stuff, but I don't think I have anything this complicated. So this will be an interesting stream because I got to figure that out. Let's see here. Let's put it down here. And then I'll have to figure it out later, but public func, we need to adapt query and parameter. And we need to adapt a query, which is a type NS string. And we need, oh geez, we're gonna need a data type to return this back in. So this would be a string and a, so otherwise I'd have to call this twice, and I don't wanna have to do that. It's super, like I said, I'm lazy. Doing that twice seems difficult. Parameter. And this was coming in as an NS dictionary. And we also need rejecting because we want to be able to do the data type check to make sure that this all works. So we can say reject, and we're going to say that's a type escaping. And this is a CRT promise reject block. And this is the data type is where my issue is going to be, is that I don't have a data type for this yet. Let's take a look here. We're gonna call this new. We're gonna make a new Swift file. A new file, and we're gonna call this query args. And these are the arguments that we're gonna pass into a query. I'll move these up here. Q is before S and after D. Yes, I'm doing alphabet here. We'll take a look at scope args. Just copy this real quick for syntax to save myself some time. Where did my query args go? There we are. But we want to call those query. And this will have a query. And then this will be parameters. And so this will be, it won't be string though. This is where it's going to be nullable. And we got to look at the helper code to see what the helper does. So it takes in string Annie and then converts it over to parameters. So I've already written all this code. You can see here, it's very complicated code, right? And I want to reuse that code as much as possible because yeah. So we need to take this as an optional though. So let's see here. Query args is going to be that, but and I need to make that. And what's the optional for this? Is a question mark here in Swift? But what side does the question mark go on it? Does it go on this side? I use too many languages and can never remember the darn syntax. Okay, that seems to be happy there. I do believe this means nullable, that this is optional. What language are you using and what are you developing? Binary Bridge, hey, welcome to the YouTube chat. This is Swift, and I'm developing a React Native module. So that means that I have a React Native app that's actually written in TypeScript over here. This is TypeScript land, a very complicated and very big React Native project here. However, my React Native needs to call some native code, and specifically an SDK for Couchbase Lite, which is a mobile database platform. And so what's going to happen is I'm writing this code in Swift that will get called by TypeScript and allow any React Native app then to call that code without understanding Swift or any of that kind of stuff. So it's an implementation. So that's what I'm working on right now. I can see that the stream is a little bit lagging behind, so I'm looking to see whether or not you will see this. Let's see here. Boy, the stream's that far behind? It can't be that far behind. Sorry, I have the stream open over here. I'm just checking to see where the stream. Okay, so you can see the editor for TypeScript here. Keep forgetting that the stream's sometimes a little bit behind, but yeah. So that's what we're working on right now. We're taking, and I'm writing ahead of time the Swift code that my TypeScript code is going to call. Because that way, when I write my test to make sure my TypeScript works, I don't have to do all that much work. But that's currently what we're working on here. Let's see here. So we know we have these two things, and then now we have these. That's what we're going to return. So if that's the case, now in our data adapter code, we can basically go in here and say, hey, look, I'm going to return a type of those. So you can see here, it's kind of mad right here because I haven't given it a type yet. I'm going to return. So that's important, right? I need to return two things, though. I need to return a Boolean of whether or not this actually worked. So I'm going to use a tuple, and I'm going to say bool, and then this new query args. And that should be enough to keep the IDE. Yeah, so now it's just mad that I don't have this implemented, right? Which means that's pretty not hard. I can just say var is error and set that to false. And then query arg var query args equals new or equals query arg. and then I can just return those. Return is error, args, and magic sauce. Now the IDE should be, Xcode should be less angry at me. I promise you it still will probably get mad at me, but not as bad. So the first thing we need to do is get a query and make sure our query works. Well, now the good news is I already have something that adapts strings that can't be empty right here, actually. And so I can just kind of borrow that code, inside of my args and just call that. And honestly, if you take a look, like database name, that's all it does. Database name should just go through and call the check string right here. You can see here, it goes through and just checks this check string. And then if that works, which is a shared method down here, then, I can just check it. So really, this right here is the exact same thing I need. Kind of need this right here. So what I need to do though is say it's not this. It's going to be args dot. Well, actually, we should do let stir query equals string, and this would be query. And then we need to check our string query. So we would say, and this is property would be query. And then this is not called this. This is called a query. And so what this is doing is we're doing error checking, right? We need to make sure that the string is not empty. And if the string is empty, then we're going to say query error. And then this is the error message query. And we're going to reject and we just get out. So we would return this error is true, and then args would be blank, right? Now, if that doesn't happen and we get this far, then we know this is good. We can just say args.query equals stir query. We're 50% done, folks. As you can see here, this will just go through. What if the string is empty? Then what would happen? If the string is empty, we throw back an error, right? So if we take a look here, if the string is empty, we're going to say error is true, and then we're going to reject. Now, what happens is this function here, check string value, actually goes through and gives me the error that says, hey, this property, must be provided, which is a message I can then send back, and then the native bridge will send that back to TypeScript. So that's why I'm trying to reuse this check string value method that I have. It just saves me from having to type this tedious error checking. So first thing I do is I check if there's an error by checking it, and then if there is an error that this message is going to be set to, then I can set this as true, and I can reject, which will call the native bridge. I developed an Android app using Flutter, never used Swift, so this is cool. Plus, I'm new to dev, and this is cool. So Flutter is Dart, and Dart's a language that looks a lot like TypeScript. Swift is a language that looks like Kotlin. So if you're doing Kotlin and Jetpack Compose, that would look very similar to Swift and Swift UI, for example. Those are kind of competing frameworks that almost look the same. If you know Jetpack Compose and Kotlin, you can learn Swift and Swift UI pretty quickly for native iOS apps. However, I'm doing React Native, which is kind of the competitor to Flutter and Dart. React Native in many ways. One second here, I'll show you some UI code. And you'll see that React Native is just a different way of doing it. Now, of course, React Native is pretty popular out there. A lot of kids like it. A lot of developers like it. I think it's okay. It's not great. I still prefer to do things natively. But if I go look at a page here, like the page we were just showing off earlier in the stream was the set blob page, you'll see here that I got some imports. I define Swift as Jetpack Compose. React Native is a functional level language. So you can see here I have this document set blob screen. I set some stuff I'm going to use for state management. I've got some functions I define, but then really what ends up happening is this return method in React Native is the actual UI code. So you mix your business logic with your UI into a component. And you can see here, this looks very similar to Dart in the sense we have like almost like an XML. They call this a JSX language that basically you set up your UI. You'll see here that these are just components that I've written. So I have this one that I wrote. We got divider actually comes from a third party. Style text input's a custom one that I wrote that just stylizes text inputs in the way that I want them. You can see I've got another divider, a text input, and then I close my container. So these are all children of this. We call these React nodes inside of a container of a React component itself. And we just set the properties on each one of these. And this looks a lot like HTML because JSX was heavily inspired by XML slash HTML markup languages, basically. So it's pretty simplistic. You can see here that on here I'm calling in some values that I get from state, and the state is set up here. So you can see I'm using use state, which is a React thing for React. And you can see I have a set key and a key. So the key is the value of it, and set is the setter of it. Oh, okay. You've used React before. So yeah, so this should look very similar to you. The problem is that this React code needs to be able to call native code, right? And so the example is I'll show you a service I have over here that does the blob stuff. So my services folder here, I've got a, let's go to set blob. I need to call this mutable document, this document, blob, and collection. This is from my library I'm writing. So what happens is when you call this JavaScript code right here, like this collection save, behind the scenes, this is actually calling native Swift code. And it goes and takes whatever you send it and it saves it into the database. All that's done in Swift in iOS, and then it'd be done in Kotlin and Android. And so I have to implement that, right? I have to tell this collection, hey, call this Swift code, and I have to have that Swift code available. And so that's what I'm literally working on right now, is the ability to do queries, which you'll see here, there's no services for query yet because I haven't written them. But that's my goal. I usually start from the native code, and then I work myself from the native code down to the TypeScript code. Because I want to validate that my native code works. It's just the easier way to doing it, at least for me in my brain, how I develop. So here I've got this adapter for query, and what I've got here is this query function is going to be the function that React Native calls. But I need to adapt the code, and the answer, this is a little bit more complicated, is that so in React Native, it uses NS objects because it's Object-C. You have to have all these Object-C things that you use. I have another framework that this code is based on for Ionic. And so there's a shared library here. All this code here is all shared code between multiple frameworks that I have. Now, this is pure Swift code. So my problem is I have to adapt from pure Swift code to this Object-C code I have up here. And that's what this adapter, this data adapter is doing. It's making it so that I can reuse all my code I already wrote, because I know that code works. I know that code, if I go into that code and I get a query, that code works. It works in Ionic. So I'm good to go. So all I have to do is adapt that code to be able to call my already written code of how query works. And that's what I'm kind of working on right now. Now, if we look here, our parameter is going to be of type dictionary. Now, this gets a little bit tricky because technically speaking, I don't know the answer to this. And this is something that I was curious on. I haven't had to do an NS dictionary yet, and I will very quickly here, of blank stuff. So I'm going to ask, I'm using IDEA, which is a JetBrains IDE. I don't like Visual Studio Code, and a lot of people do, but I don't. I'm going to ask it about this. I'm going to say, hey, in a React native module, can a call to Objective-C native module function include a optional NS dictionary that might be null or nil? We'll find out if the Copilot, GitHub Copilot thinks we can do this. Yes, in React Native, you can include an optional dictionary that might be null or no in Object-C function. So it's saying here that you can do it, and we can check it for nil. And then if it is nil, let's see what the function call here is, though. So it just has the pointer. It doesn't have any question marks or anything on it. That's cool. And then we just have to check it. So cool. According to that, we can. We're going to say that the AI knows what it's talking about, that we can do that. So we're going to check that. And so we're going to say then if, so right here, we are adapt query parameters. So we got our query right here. Check the query. And now we're gonna check the, we need to check the parameters. And the very first thing we need to do is say if we're saying parameters is equal to nil. Actually, we'll say not equal to nil. Because we don't want to do this work. Else, we'll set it. It's probably not the best way to do it in Swift. We probably should do a if let. And then what would happen is args dot parameters would equal nil. Actually, we just should set that by default. Then we don't even have to set this else statement. Where's our class for this? Oh, it's not. What's the constructor in Swift? I never remember. I have to program in about 6 different languages on a daily basis. I don't always remember the syntax between them. I know if I were to type, I don't think this shortcut works. CTOR. Yeah, it's not, let me ask AI real quick here. What is that? The most basic thing I can't remember about Swift. Syntax for a Swift constructor. Init. Duh. Boy. You know your day's getting rough when you don't remember init. Init. And then what we'd want to say is query equals. Oh, wait. We're knitting them up here. We can just say equals nil out of the box. I don't even need the init. What am I thinking here? I already have a knitting these to this. That's good. All right. Back to the game here. Let's go to our query, our data adapter for query. So we don't have to do anything in the else statement. We just have to say if this is here. So now what we have is we have an NS dictionary. We need to turn this into a key value. Now, okay, question, why is that not just one code base? The question is, why not just one code base? Not sure if I understand that question. Are you saying, why am I not editing this all in one editor? Is that maybe what you're asking? This is one code base, but technically speaking, boy, this gets a little bit complicated, but technically speaking, this code that I'm currently editing in Xcode lives right here. The problem is that the IDE, this is JetBrains IDE, isn't great for editing Swift. It's good for editing JavaScript and TypeScript and Java and honestly Kotlin. Most languages, it's just not good at editing Swift. So because Xcode is the IDE for Swift, I've just went through and opened this code inside of Xcode and I'm editing it in Xcode. Everything else I do in this IDE. So I keep 2 IDEs, well, not just one programming language. Oh, well, because my company's paying me to provide support for React Native for our database platforms, the answer. And unfortunately in React Native is you have to implement it using the native platforms, right? You have to implement your native module in Swift and Kotlin or Swift and Java. You know, Java and Kotlin are native languages in Android, and then the native languages over in iOS land are Object-C and Swift. So anytime, you know, right now there is no support for our native database platform. I work for Couchbase right here on my shirt. And we have a mobile database, but that mobile database doesn't support React Native, but it does support Swift and it supports Kotlin and Java on Android. So what I can do is I can make this bridge and make this plugin, or this, you know, it's plugin. You could call it framework. You could call it's called modules in React Native. But by implementing this means that all React Native customers can now use our database platform. That's my goal. That's why I'm writing this. But unfortunately, I have to bridge between TypeScript and Swift and Android land over in Kotlin. So they don't have to. So the average developer doesn't have to know how to do all this stuff. What they're going to get is a super cool JavaScript, implementation language of the database that they don't even know how it works. And behind the scenes, it's going to call all the Swift code that I've written that they don't have to even know. They're just going to take this in as a package, like an npm package, and then once they have the npm package, it's just going to magically do this. And so that's kind of the reason why I'm doing this this way. Hope that helps answer the question. But specifically, Xcode is a better platform for editing Swift than IntelliJ. And so that's the reason why this is getting implemented the way it is. Now, I do believe, if I remember right, I've done this already. If I look, I'm pretty sure somewhere in this world, where would I use... well, that can't be the first place. I taken a document, so the document API takes it, and then I convert it over. So how do I do that? So I have an adapt document that takes in the doc ID, the concurrency, but that doesn't do everything. Looking to see if I have already code I've written to do this, so that I don't have to think so hard. Let's see here. So this saves a document. That can't be right. Really? No, it is. According to this, I just typecasted it. Wait, I have to check here. This might be way too easy. Does my query helper, not query helper, does this take an optional? So it'd be the database manager runs queries. Does the query actually just take in an optional and just run that on it? And if you're asking, why wouldn't you know how your code works? I wrote this like, I don't know, 5 months ago. I don't remember how this works. It's my code, but I don't remember. It does take in an optional. And it's set to the nil by default. And does this call the helper then? Query. So I create the query, parameters equals, and I try to get the parameters from the query. Holy crap on a cracker. I don't even have to escape those out. I literally can just return those as an optional. And so all I have to do is make sure they're optional in my args. And they are optional in the args. Holy crap, that's easy. Oh man, this just got... So this just got super easy for myself because I just now realized, oh, no. This is probably more complicated than most people would ever have to do. If you're a native, or if you're a developer in React Native, you're probably never going to write a native module. This is for the extremists out there that need to do this when you have code that's only available native. But yeah, I forget my own code all the time, man. I work on a lot of different code in a lot of different languages. And so right now on my job, I have to do, let me count them, Swift, Kotlin, Java, Object-C, TypeScript, JavaScript, .NET. So I have to do C#. I do a little F#, Python. I do C and C++, and I have to be able to read Go pretty well. So that's 11 or 12 different languages that I have to support here. And I have to look at that code base at any time, kind of an idea of what it does. That's a lot of languages to keep juggling around in your brain. In a lot of different projects you have to look at. I don't always remember everything. So I have to go read my own code to see how did the previous version of Aaron do this 6 months ago? Oh, that's right, I did it like this. I always say, and this is a very important thing that I will say over and over again, I think it's more important as a programmer is to understand concepts, not syntax. I can look up syntax anytime I want, but I need to understand like how a dictionary works in all languages, or how a hash table works. All these kind of things are core computer, or even scope as a concept of what is scope from a variable scope. What is the lifetime of a variable, the stack and heap? All those things, if you understand the concepts, you can look up the syntax in whatever language you're using. But if you understand the concept, you're kind of dead in the water. So a lot of times I just remember concepts. I don't really remember like the syntax for every single language. but I know I could just go look that up if I need to. Syntax is really easy to look up. So basically, all I should have to do is this. I should be able to say parameters right here. I should be able to say, if this is not equal to nil, I can say args dot parameters equals, and I'm taking in parameters, and I can take the force out of it, because if it comes back as null, I just don't care. Now what's it saying here? Comparing non-optional values of type will always return true. I'm not sure why Swift is mad about that. I might have to ask. Comparing non-optional. Oh. Because in Swift, okay, in Object-C, no such thing as an optional parameter. But in Swift, technically speaking, there is the question mark, right? You could say, hey, this thing is optional. You know, it could be nil. Nil, it means null in Swift by default. I see for error handling, you do not use try and catch. I do use try and catch, but I don't want to do it in my data adapter, because if something goes wrong, I should be able to handle it where I actually call my data adapter code. For example, here, what will end up happening is if you look at this method here, collection save, you'll see that everything gets wrapped around a do catch, okay? And that's usually the last thing I do. I usually get all my code working and I wrap it around a do catch, and then based on a current set of things, I may have to just push back the error. I don't want to, if the problem is, you only should do a try catch if you know what to do with the error, right? In the data adapter, there's nothing I could do with this error. If something happens, as a programmer, what am I supposed to do about that? All I can do is tell the user, hey, you sent me something wrong. I don't know how to fix what you sent me, because I don't know why you sent me the wrong thing. So in the example here, if they sent me parameters but they're the wrong data types, all I can do is tell them, hey, you did that wrong. I can't fix it. So the catch, there's nothing I can do in the catch other than just report something back. Well, that's why here I just kind of do that, report back there's an error, and then let the rest of this thing kind of handle itself. You know, if there's a problem in my helper or a problem in the actual code that executes a query, for example, that should just throw exception my main wrapper around all the code that does the do catch, because that's how we do it in Swift here. And I may have multiple tries of things, and that's why I usually make a big loop of do catch, so that I can catch multiple errors depending on what happens. I don't want to. I never try to do a catch, a try catch, unless there's something I actually can do about it. If there's nothing I can do about it, then it's a waste of computing power to actually do a try catch. You should let it bubble up somewhere else. You should let somebody else handle that exception if it knows what to do with it. And that's always just top level try catch. And you'll see that in TypeScript. I do that a lot. I'll give you an example here. In my TypeScript code here, this code right here, this could go bonkers, right? This set blob code could go completely wrong in this service. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But what happens is the code that calls that does the try catch. So here's my try and here's my catch, and its job is to actually go through and await this thing and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it knows what to do with the error. It knows to throw the error up on the UI, right? My other code, my service code, there's nothing it could do. There's nothing this code could do when it catches. Too much error handling. People wrap way too much error handling. Honestly, this is a very common, especially if you're a junior developer and you don't really understand like what the point of a try catch is. I see this way too often where people just use it all the time. And it's not needed. A try catch should only be there if you know you can do something with the catch. If you can't do something with the catch, then you're completely wasting time. Let somebody else handle it. Something in your code eventually should be able to handle a try catch, and it should be able to do something with the exception that comes back. Hopefully, that's your goal. So this actually is the only thing that's bugging me. Well, actually, I take that back. It's right. It's 100% right, because this is optional. It's never needed. All we have to do is set the parameters as optional, because they are optional. And so this should work. And if it blows up, the exception will happen over here and we'll catch it there. Otherwise, this just works. Oh, crap. I love it when code gets easier than you think it's going to be when you go in. I was really grueling expecting this to be a little bit of a trick to get working, but it actually, because they're optional, and a NS dictionary converts to a string any in Swift without any type checking or any kind of conversion code whatsoever. This makes my life way easier. A NS string converts to a Swift string just by calling the string constructor with an NS string inside of it, and it'll convert for you. And so, if we can't do anything, then what shouldn't we do? It's okay to use too much error handling. If it's okay to use too much energy, if it okay to use too much error handling, I don't think it is okay to use too much error handling. I think in Android, which a platform you told me you're on, and I'll give you the primary example here. I've got this really bad phone. This is a Samsung. It's like that's actually a good Samsung phone. 1 second here. This Samsung phone. I'm a mobile developer, so I have a lot of phones laying around. This thing is the biggest piece of turd that you could ever have. This is like, it's A or J series, depending on where you are in the world. If you're in America, it's the A series. And if you're anywhere else in the world, it's the J series. This is like a J3, I want to say. So this thing runs Android 8, and it's the slowest phone that you're ever going to use in your life. They're super popular because they're like $80 in the US, and that is, we call these burner phones. And the problem is that you have to get your code running super awesome on this phone, which is ridiculously slow. When I say slow, it is so slow. The amount of memory it has in it is bare minimum. The disks, the memory chips that actually are writing to the file system are the slowest possible. I'm writing a database platform that writes a disk a lot. The problem is that this phone, to get your code optimized to work well, is hard. And so everything that you do that's unoptimized is going to hurt your performance on this particular phone. And so I always write for the worst case scenario. I know that I need to target this kind of phone, so I'm gonna write the most efficient code I can so that it runs okay on this. You're never, in my opinion, you're never gonna have great code for running Android stuff for this series of phone. It's just not gonna happen. So, sorry, there's a bug on my desk. But anyways, I keep this phone around. I test my code on this phone. I usually have a lot of different phones laying around. So like, here's my iPhone, and I test on physical devices a lot. I usually have all these plugged into various things. I've got an iPad. I've got many actually iPads over here. Various mobile devices for testing on physical devices. It's really important to make sure. And then React Native, what you should be doing is if we shake over here, device, and then shake, we should be going into the performance monitor, and we should be able to check and see how much memory we're using and make sure that our memory is not growing and not shrinking back down when we're not using it, right? Because if that's the case, then you have a memory leak. And memory leaks are bad. They're very, very bad. So, here I can see that I've got 92 views with 218 in total. We can see we're getting 60 frames a second on both the UI thread and the JavaScript thread, and the amount of memory I'm using. Yeah, you have to code for the worst device. Otherwise, you're just gonna have all kinds of problems. So I keep the optimizer in mind at all times. I use the in Swift. It's a little bit complicated. This is probably the most complicated screen I have. If I were to run, 1 second here. If I were to run this again, iOS. I'm gonna go ahead and run iOS real quick here. That should build out to this phone. And this is how you actually debug an app, a React Native app. Give it a second here for Hermes, which is the kind of debugging platform to kick in. So this should kick in, should relaunch my app. It's gonna push the code into the container, which is called Expo. And this is just standard React Native with Expo development. Here's my app. If I were to go into documents, I were to go into the editor. Now, if I want to see like my performance on this, once again, I can just go to device and shake, and I can just say toggle performance monitor, and I'm getting a pretty good idea what's going on from a performance standpoint. This screen uses 243 megabytes of RAM. Not doing anything, so this should never be going up or down. If this is going up like crazy amounts over and over again, that means I have some kind of leak of memories. You can see here that I'm getting pretty decent from frame rate. My views, I've got 49 out of 310 in total. Or 49 views using 310 megabytes of RAM. That totally makes sense, right? And And the garbage collector is going to do various things to collect and get things. But if I want to see what's really going on in this, like, is this too view heavy? And a lot of times in like Flutter, you'll also do this. You'll write containers in order to try to group your controls on the screen in a way that they flow a certain way, right? You can actually run into a lot of performance problems there. So normally what I would do is I would debug this app in Xcode. So this is a native app, so I can just go make sure that, I make sure I'm on the same one. I can go to attach to process, and I can go to my Expo app. Now I've got two running because I've got it running on both these simulators, so I need to kill one of them, otherwise I won't know which one's which. Now if I go to debug, attach the process into this app, this should take a second to attach an Xcode, but once I attach it to Xcode, and I'm going to turn off the, it takes a second for this to happen. I'm going to turn off the performance monitors here because they're going to conflict with what I'm about to do. I'm going to toggle performance monitors here. And now what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to actually go into my Expo app, and I'm going to ask it to render out my Expo app in real time to tell me what my views look like. And what I'm looking for here is to see how many views do I really truly have in memory. Now how I do that is I can kind of go in here and go to the right here. This is a breakdown of all the views on the screen that I'm actually got running. So you can see here, I've got a view controller for accessories on a couple of these items up here. This is a view, this is a view, this is a view. This is my nested tree of how many views I have on the screen. And if this is too many, then I'm gonna have slow performance when I actually go through and try to scroll. And so my understanding is to go through and make sure that if there's way too many views, I need to somehow get these combined up in the same view and squish the amount of views that I'm using down to a smaller amount. And this comes into optimizing when you're trying to go through and do this. So you can see here, I can go into any one of these to see what these are. And these are all React views. You can see here, React's making these views. Some of these I can't get rid of because these are like the screen and the layout, like the navigator controller. This is for navigation to go back and forward, so I can't get rid of one of those. But you'll see here, I've got three major, these yellow ones are major views. So I have a view controller inside the view controller, and I don't have control over these. This is React Native. React Native then has a navigation controller, and this is Expo that provides that. Inside of that is a React Native screen. That's what RS stands for. And then this is then bringing in the actual, this is anything from here on, I control in my app. But anything prior to this is all React Native doing stuff. So you can see here, React Native can be thought of as actually being very inefficient if you look at it from a standpoint. It's got a lot of wrappers to get to the point where you're drawing something on the screen. So your performance hit in React Native is from this black screen right here back. That's all React Native stuff that I didn't do, that React Native or Expo is doing. And that's the hit you're going to take when you're using a platform like React Native, is that it's not always going to be puppies, kittens, or rainbows. And I can detach from the example here now, and my app will continue running. But these are all the things you have to worry about when you're doing performancing. And for Flutter, we have a thread, 3 in each widget. But yeah, I've done Flutter before. I've got, where's our learning examples? Somewhere over here. Let me see where VS Code is. Or actually, maybe I'll just open a new idea window. Open. Developer, Couchbase, tutorials, Flutter. Yep. New window. And here we go. And let's go into, I forgot how this works because I wrote it about a year and a half ago. But yeah, here is a Flutter app that I wrote. This is the actual, just gets everything set up for all routing and stuff. This is the main Flutter view that goes through and sets up all my repository mappings. This is the actual app itself that gets it set up. And then if we go into core, let's see, actually this would be widgets, themes, models. There's our models. Here's our features. So each one of our features has everything self-contained in it. There's a different way of setting up a project. For example, this is the authentication. So authentication, we have a view. Here's our view, which is our form and our screen. So here's our screen, which uses stateless widgets. Then that has a form in it. Here's our form, the scaffolding on it. Then that uses models, and here's all the different models I have for that. And then I use the block pattern. So block is in here and then goes through, and you have to have your block, you have to have your mapper, your event, and then your state management. Block is a very heavy framework, but it's the one that they recommend usually for Dart and Flutter. So you see here, I have here's my password, which is just basically extends a form for password and checking for the password. Here's my username, which goes through, and this is my model for just a regular username authentication for a user, and then obviously this is the username itself. So basically a user uses a username and password, and then that gets thrown onto a form. You can see here it's very, very similar to React Native, honestly. If you were to look at these two things and how they render, they're pretty similar. I find Dart and Flutter just extremely wordy compared to most other platforms when you're trying to make components in a way that's reusable. But yeah, I've done quite a bit of Flutter and Dart with Block in the past. It's all right. It's not great. It's not bad. It is a way of doing things. I usually only do things when people pay me to do them. That's the real answer. I don't really care for one framework versus another. I just do what people tell me to do, and then they pay me money, and then I'm happy to do that. As a developer, I gave up a long time ago on like having wars over which framework is better and stuff. I haven't used Block, but I've seen Block code base. Mainly I use GetX. Yeah, there's I think it's RiverPod is another one. If I had to do it again, I'd probably use RiverPod. My understanding is a little bit easier, and I did POC this, but if you go look on YouTube, the amount of videos that support Block, I mean, there's over 100,000 views on the Block tutorial videos, so you can't tell me it's not popular. When 100,000 views on a video, yeah, Block is extremely popular, but it's really complex, and some people have a problem with that because it's just really hard to understand. I think it's just wordy. That's all. It's a fine pattern. I still think probably MVVM is better than Block if I had to think about it. But I think Block is more of a core computer science concept. It follows probably more. It's very close to PubSub in many ways, if you ask me. It's just a wordier version of PubSub, probably, when it comes down to it. Yeah. Well, I always say, well, then if you're jobless, you're trying to find a job in programming, then the answer is go find out where you want to work, like what city, if you're going to go on an on-site job and stuff, and then you find out what people are looking for and you learn those things, and that's how you get a job. If I had lost my job here, or if I decided to leave here and I was looking to get a job in Atlanta, Georgia, and the amount of jobs looked like everything was in .NET, I would become a .NET developer. And I would go back to doing .NET stuff. I can do .NET stuff. Right now I'm not required to. My job requires me to do this instead, but that's usually how I'd handle it. Let's see here. So we've got this query adapter now running, and this should work. So what we should be able to do is say let. Now we're using a tuple here, so we're going to say let is query args error or query error. I'll say args error. It's easier to read. And then we need to take in the query args. Because this is a tuple, we're going to say that this is going to be equal to our data adapter. Adapter dot shared, because this is a singleton, and I like singletons. Adapt query parameters. And we're going to pass in two things: our query, and then our parameters. Oop. And get over to our parameters. Parameters. That's great. And then reject. We're going to kill that and put in our reject object. And then we have to do the same thing here. Actually, we can do this in one big shot. We can just put this up here, like this, and we can say is query args error, and then we just say return. And now we have got that one shot. We can wrap this with our do, because we're going to need that very quickly here. So we can just do a do here, and we can wrap that with our catch here, which honestly I should probably eventually refactor this out to something so I don't have to cut and paste this, because it's always the same. I only can do very small things with errors because this is a framework. I can just return back. There's two types of errors I can handle. I can handle a error from object C, or a swift error, which is just a regular catch. You have to have both because this is a mixture of Object-C and Swift code. So unfortunately, you kind of have to have both sides of the world. No, it's mad because it's saying there's a try catch and there's no try in here, right? You're from Pakistan. I know several people from Pakistan. What was the guy I used to work with at Ernst & Young, EY? Looks like Mario from Super Mario Brothers. What is his name? Near is his name. I had to think about it for a second here. He was a tech lead I worked with back at EY when I used to work there in mobile. He was a contractor. He used to work on the team that I worked for doing mobile stuff. He's a cool guy. I like Mir a lot. I think he's a CIO or a CTO somewhere now in Florida, I think. Good guy though. All right, here. So we've got our two things. So now what we need to do is take a look and see. We would get. I'm trying to think here. We would have to see if the parameters are not null. Because we'd have to call this. I'm looking to see, like, on another screen, I've got the other code open. Trying to see here. So if I think about this for a second, the problem is, how do I get... If that params... query params equal to args dot, oh no, wait, what do I call these? Query args. I'm going to try to unwrap these. Then we want to do this. Else, we want to do this. So if they're unwrappable, we would call the helper without them, right? And so that's pretty easy. We could just do something like this. Let result equal try. Oh, we'd have to give it the query from, where is this coming back as? It'd be query args. Query args dot query. And database name would be coming back as this. And then we could basically, so the results would come back as a dictionary. And I've already done this with document. Documents results come back as a dictionary also. And so if I take a look at this, I think, like I said, you could just typecast it back if I remember right. Nope, that's database config. Where's document? Where's collection, get document? Yeah, see, you just basically say let doc, and then what would happen is this. What's this right here? Let dictionary equal data as dictionary. You just typecast it. So this, you see here, React Native requires a dictionary typecast. So I should be able to just convert this like this and then resolve it like this. So if I go back to my query code, the syntax should be exactly the same. So if I get data back from result, I should be able to say let dictionary equal result as dictionary and then return the dictionary. Wait, what? Result should not be a string. Or is it? Let's go look. That seems weird. Maybe it's not. Maybe I return it as a JSON string and then deserialize it on the other side. That would make sense because it's so complicated, the data. Yeah, right here. It is coming back as a JSON string. Yeah, you can see right here. I converted over to JSON here because it's so complicated for the bridge. It's just a string. So actually this is way simpler than needed. It just needs to get returned as a string. And in query, it gets sent as data. That's the string name that it needs to be. So it'd be, so let's actually go back here. And this would be, it would be more of this, like dictionary equal NS dictionary. And then we would say data. And we would then say, right, data. And then this would be result. Like that. And that would be the answer to, what's here, why is it? No, fix, nope. Dictionary should be just key value. Why is the IDE complaining about the syntax on this now? Let's see here. Oh. Equal. That's why. Duh. Equal sign missing. And then return it. And that should work. And then if there is query parameters, though, that's where everything gets a little bit different. Not really. You got to pass the parameters in. So that's a separate function, though. So if there is query parameters, then we would say let result equal try database manager dot share dot execute query, and we would need this version of it, and we would say the string is called it's from args query args dot parameter query. Our parameters will be our query params that we just unboxed, and then our database name would be database name. And then it's the same thing as here. Why is it here? Database manager. Did I spell that wrong? Probably. All right. Honestly, it's the same code here then, because the data comes back the same way. It's just what call do you make for the result. Equals result. Let's do this instead. Yeah, I gotta change it to a var because it's not nullable or it's not modifiable. That does work then, and then what happens is just take this out here, and we can say else. Make sure that this still works. Parameters here, and else. This is before it, and else result. Take this code out over here. I'll move this code out here, but what we need to do is we need to set this equal to this. What I'm trying to do is make it so I don't have to cut and paste that code in. So now what we should be able to do is say, should be stir result. As long as it's out of scope of the if and else. This is the else, this is the if, this is the parameter. Oh, I've got an extra bracket in here. That's what's going on. All right, let's reformat this thing because this is obviously getting ugly. Let's reindent that, and now that should work. So let's double check this. Let's go back to query, make sure that that looks right. All right, if we look at query, we're saying here is that we're going to get a variable called result. If it's a bridge, how do you handle warning and how do you test your bridge? That's the boy. That's a great question to ask. The only way to test a bridge is to have an example app that you actually run and take this code and run it in that example app and see whether or not it works. And you use that for all your testing, and that's the most modern way that React Native does its bridge testing. which we're about to do in a few seconds here once we get this working. Once I feel comfortable that this code probably works, we'll throw it over to the bridge and see if it really does work or not. So just double validating before I move on. So I've got my data adapter here. It's going to adapt. I know this code works because this data adapter, for getting database names, I use it all over the place. It is used so many times it's not funny. This is new, but this should work by theory. This is getting a query arg, and if there's an error for either one of these, we just return out because we can't do any work. We know we need to get string. We're gonna get string results from this thing, and I could call this results, but I shouldn't mix two patterns. Where's refactor rename results? We'll just do that as results. Then we're saying query parameters. We're going to unwrap these because they could be nullable. And so in Swift, we unwrap like this. We're going to go through and say if they are not null, then we'll pass them in and get the results based on the parameters passed in. Otherwise, we'll just basically call the database manager without parameters and just get our query result. And then we say we're going to take our results back, and we need to put them in a dictionary because that's the way React Native works. And we have to have at least one key. And so we're going to send it back in the data key with the result being that string that we have. And then we're going to resolve that and send it back to the native land. If there's any errors, we're going to reject them, sending whatever error message back based on whether or not it's object C with an NS error, or if it's regular Swift with just a regular standard error object. We don't care, right? So that looks good. I think that's going to work. We'll do the quick build. Just make sure that the Xcode doesn't say there's anything wrong with this Swift code. I always would do that before doing anything else. We can see here a build going on. It's saying args are not used. What? Oh, it's saying that it could be a let because we make a pointer to args here, but we never change the args to a different pointer. So technically speaking, it doesn't need to be a var. That is true. Cool. All right. That builds. So now we got to close Xcode. Yes, I do want to save all the changes I made. But we should probably do another build because if the save changes weren't in there, it doesn't mean that it really built right. One more build. Product build. Just to make sure. And so the problem is that Xcode cannot be open when we build the bridge because Xcode deletes the native project, React Native deletes the native project and recreates it every single time. So you can't have the native project open because otherwise it just nukes it. And Xcode gets really confused. So once I know that I'm pretty cool, then I come over here and I have to do the other side of the bridge. The other side of the bridge is done in TypeScript or JavaScript. So in here, this is my React Native engine. My React Native engine registers in here to talk to that Swift code. You can see here that my CBL object is a native module of CBL React Native. And what this does is it gets a proxy that allows me to talk. Anytime I call a method off this object, it's calling the Swift method. And so this is where I have to implement the other side of it. So in here should be, if I go to structure, I should be able to find my query, execute. Here's my query execute. You can see it's currently unimplemented, right? So this is where we have to go through and figure out how we want to call our query and make sure that we call it in a way that makes sense. And then once we do that, we write a page that goes through and tests it. And I don't... I'm trying to think here. Looking for some docs I have. I think I'm going to just have to blast this out as individual parameters because... Oh, we should probably... Oh, let me take a look. I can call Swift code up in here. We should probably just take a look and see. As you can see here, it doesn't color code it very well. That's why I don't like opening Swift in here. But if I were to go to structure and go look at that query again. Query execute takes in query, then parameter, then name of the database. So I need to send those three in that order of query, parameter, and name. Otherwise, this won't work. I can just steal this. code right here, and then I can go to my structure and find my query execute. There's my query execute. And instead, though, we're going to call query execute. Execute. And then I need to send it 3 things. I need to send it from my args I have here. Hopefully I have those. I need to send it my args.query, args.parameters, and then args.main. So then, oh, what's that about now? Reformat. Maybe that's what's going on here. All right. So then the result will be of a dictionary, actually, not of. Yes, it is of type result. And what should happen is we should just resolve with result. And if there's an error, we should resolve with that. And result should be of P of any type of string inside of a dictionary. And that's, remember in the dictionary, we did resolve that back. Of course, it's saved in a field called result, I do believe. What was that called? Data. And by theory, the code that calls this, which I happen to know where it's at, it's in the query object. I should be able to double check that. Query. Here's query, and then if I go to query, when query executes, here we go. We get the data back. So right here we say JSON result equals go get the engine, then run the query. And then when the query runs, we get back the data. You can see here the data property, which means we have to send that in a property called data for it to match. And then once it does that, it takes the data and it takes the JSON and parses it back out and returns whatever that data is into a result set. And that's what we need. By theory, this should work. Now comes the complicated part of testing it, of writing something to actually use it. Oh boy. Let's see here. So where do we want to start? We want to start probably with a service. And I'm trying to think here. This would be like any data coming back. This is the trickiest part of it all, folks, is getting the, I gotta watch my time here too, because I've got stuff going on here that I have to make sure that I am done by. I think I can just stringify the results and bring that back. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Yeah, boy, how to explain this? Let's see here. So how this really works behind the scenes is to understand that there's an interface that gets defined. So CB-Lite here is a shared library. It's a shared library of the implementation of Couchbase Lite's database platform for JavaScript. It doesn't care who implements it. It's just a shared library that says that. So inside of here, we have something called core types. Inside of core types, there's an interface. That is, if we go find it, let's go to structure and find our interface definition here. This is the abusing of the concept to an nth degree of object-oriented programming. I have an interface. You can see here, I wrote this a long time ago. I don't remember when I wrote it. Probably back in March. The only time I don't want to see annotations, it doesn't show them, and when I want to see them, it doesn't show them. So anyways, I've got this interface here. There we go. So it was done in April, but really I did it in March. I had to change repos from one location to another, so I know that that's when it was done. So iCore Engine is a definition of how to call the API. And then what you do is you make an engine based on that. So this code is shared between multiple platforms. So this one set of JavaScript code can be used on both React Native and something called Ionic, which is a web-based technology for building mobile apps. So how it happens is that both libraries use the same CB-Lite code and the CB-Lite tests, and the only difference is is they have an implementation of that engine over here. You can see here, this class, CBL React Native Engine, implements iCore Engine. This is the implementation of it. And then by doing that, I'm super lazy. Now, a developer, technically speaking, can write the exact same code for Ionic as for React Native, and it works the same way because all we do is we swap out the engine from Ionic's engine to the React Native engine. React Native handles calling it in React Native land, and Ionic handles how to call it in Ionic land. And that's why that in Xcode, I had all that shared code. That shared code in Swift, the database manager stuff, that's a shared code between Ionic and React Native. And so we have shared code in JavaScript land, we have shared code in Swift land, and then we have this bridge that bridges the platform-specific things out to our shared code library. So this React Native class is bridging our shared JavaScript code so that React Native's idiotisms I can handle, and the Swift version of that class is handling the React Native idioms of talking to Object-C in Swift. In Ionic, I have the same thing. I have an Ionic version of that, both in Swift and in JavaScript. And by doing that, most of my code is shared between multiple libraries, multiple frameworks. And that makes it so I can just reuse all this code over and over again. And that's my ultimate like. I don't want to write code 1,000 times, so I want to reuse my code as much as possible. So CB Lite JS is actually something called a Git submodule. It's a repo that I can have in multiple repos using submodules. And so that's a shared library. Think of it that way. The code lives out separately in GitHub, but it's used by multiple projects. And they just bring in that submodule. By doing that, I'm sharing that code then, and I don't have to think about it. And that's the way I like to write. So you can see here, that's why I'm like, I already have the query code working in Ionic. So all I have to do is really adapt it to make it work here in React Native. And I'm pretty confident that this should, by theory, work. The only thing I'm a little bit unconfident on is parameters, only because parameters are kind of a mess because of their data types. And I had problems with Ionic in the past with that, and I'm probably going to run into problems, my guess is again, but maybe we'll get lucky. So let's go here and make a new directory for services called query. And then we need to do a execute. TS, this is going to be a TypeScript file for executing the query. I'm just going to grab a random class here to get me started. I just need it for the syntax. Execute. So execute's going to take in some stuff. It needs to take in, we need collection. We don't need collection. We need database. It's going to take in a database. So we'll take it, we'll take in a query string. And that's going to be of type string. We're going to take in some parameters. And it's not a document. We're going to send back a result set. And we're going to have to import that also. And we need to take in a database of type database. So we need a database. Format with prettier. And so const result set equals await database dot create query from the query string. And we'll do that in, this is a query actually. Then the query execute, we would say const result set equals query execute. We need to await that though, because it's async. Then we can say return result set. And let's see here, why is this mad here? Wait has, oh, because I accidentally have that in there. That should be that. Wait has no effect on this type of expression. Oh, the query itself just makes a create. It doesn't need a wait on it. The execute does. All right, let's see here. And then the query, we'd have to add parameters in. Now, parameters are of type, they're a dictionary. Let's go through and see what query needs for those. CB light, source, query, where is query? And parameters. Let's find parameters in the structure to see what these need. Parameters are of type parameters. Okay. And those are optional. So let's see here. And we need to bring in parameters also. And then, oop, we lost query. Nope, what do I need? Oh, result set. No, I don't need a... This is nullable. Alright, we'll figure that out in a second here. Why is TypeScript being a turd? This is nullable. Am I doing it on the wrong side? Oh, duh. If parameters not equal to null, or the parameters not equal to undefined, define, then we'll add them to the query. Query dot parameters equals parameters. Is this a set? Yeah, I think that it's read only and you have to set it. Nope. Add parameters. I wrote this. I don't remember how it works. The answer is how the query's parameters defined. Parameters are just a set of dictionary values. Parameters are here. You'll see here they're just a dictionary behind the scenes. The problem is that we hide the dictionary from the developer. They're private, so they don't have to know about it. You basically set and set and get values from it. It's kind of how our native API works, so we try to emulate that as much as possible. And so parameters should be right here, but it should be, there should be an add for it. Yeah, right here, add parameters, void, this parameters equals parameters. So the only problem I have is y is... I just need to force that because I know that it's not there. Oh, that's actually better right here. This is a better solution to this problem. Thank you, IDE. Let's refresh that. We just say, hey, if parameters is an instance of parameters, then let's add it, and then we'll run it and return the result set. That's cool, yo. That works. And that would work. And this should then run, see what the heck happens, return back, and then if something goes wrong, we should get an answer back, and we can handle it there. So let's see here. How much time do I have left? I have 30 minutes left, 29 minutes. Let's see what we can do in 29 minutes. So we have a query screen right here that is blank. So we'll have to build the screen for it. Let's get that open, and then... Boy, so this would be very similar to... Try to think here for a second. I'm gonna need to modify it because I can show you what I need. Let's see here. This right here is the Ionic version of this app. And so this is something I already wrote. And I want my screen to look similar to this, but not 100%. We won't have this query editor like this. And you can add parameters here and then get results. Right now, I don't think this is 100% workable. Maybe I didn't get that all working. Right now, what we're gonna get, just to get our beta out, is a database, a query, and then we'll show the results. So that's what we need. So I know that I have the component for database already done, and it's used all over the place, like on this screen. Actually, that's on this screen. Let's see here, like close. This is a shared component. That screen is very basic because it uses this component, and it's really kind of smart. The screen's really small. So if I look at close, it's a very small component because there's a shared component here that knows that databases do actions. It kind of handles most of the hard work for it. And so we're going to copy that because we'll make that the basis of this. We need this is going to be query SQL++ screen. And most of this is going to work. We don't need close, so we'll comment that out for right now. We'll comment this out right now. We will need some new state stuff we need to keep track of. And for right now, we can just return. And that will keep that code from being happy. Here, we're going to say SQL. Let's call this the query workbench. For lack of originality here. Let's see here. Error. Why is this mad? Why is error man here? Oh, it's unreachable because there's nothing that could throw an exception. That's fine for right now. So now we need state. We need to set some state. So let's go borrow some code for doing that from the editor. And this is pretty close to what we need. Actually, it's pretty close to what we need. We might need this too. Let's grab these two things since we're grocery shopping. Let's see here. We need two things to state. We need a query, and we need to set the query. So we need the ability to set a query, and those are going to be state. They're going to be a string. That's cool. Styles, because we need to bring a custom input component in. And that may cause some issues. Reset, we need to be able to say if we call reset, set query back to nothing, and that's cool. Update, we'll handle that in a little bit here, but first we need a box to be able to draw if to do the query. And so this we need something called a styled input. And one of these things has a styled input. Let's go to go here and see if this has got one. Somebody's got the style input I wrote. You just gotta go deep enough. Go implementation. Boy, we're digging deep. That's not going to the implementation. That's what's going on here. Go to type declaration. Oh, no. That's not going to. Okay, you know what? Fine. I'll browse to it manually in the file system IDE. You win. Let's see here. This is what I was looking for. Yeah. Nope, wrong. This is it. Need it like this. And let's see here. We would say this is set query. And this is query. And reformat this with prettier. That should fix that. We might have to fix the margins a little bit, but this is pretty close to what we'd want. This would basically set query into here. And then when they run it, we would want to say we need to import our query or execute. service. Where was our execute service at? It's in, we call it query execute. So we want to say execute from services query execute Q. Ooh, F11 by accident. All right, let's see here. That's execute here. So then what we want to do is say const results equals await execute, and we would send it the query and database for right now. Oh no, I'm thinking Swift again. No. Okay, let's see here. I could make a method overload of that. One more question. Do you write the test for the bridge? Yeah, I do. Boy, but it's complicated. So there is already tests for all of it, it turns out. There's a whole package right here called CB Lite tests. And these are end-to-end tests that do the full end-to-end. So technically speaking, in query, there's a bunch of tests already here that do all the testing. The problem is I need a custom component to run the tests. They're written in a very custom, I wrote a custom frame for running the tests. I haven't written the component for running the tests yet. So right now I'm just trying to get everything working. And then the last thing I do, so if you look in this Ionic version, 1 second here. If you look here, there's something called the test runner. In the test runner here, if I were to go to query, for example, this will run all the tests and tell me the results of them. For example, if I go to database, not sure if this is going to work or not, but I'll just run all of them. You'll see all the database tests run, but one, which is copy, which I haven't written the test for yet. And so technically speaking, and save many docs, this takes forever because this saves like, oh, is it like 20,000 docs, I think, in total? This is a performance test to make sure, like, hey, in the gray world, everything works. So what happens is these are all just React components that run and runs this custom test framework that I wrote. So I have to write the code in React Native to do this. This is React Web. And then once that happens, this is usually the last thing I'll do before I ship a beta. So I'll build this components. Right now, developers want to be able to see a screen and see how things work. And so that's why I'm writing these screens in the example app. But no, there are tests for everything. And this thing may take forever. Like I said, this thing is like ridiculously expensive because it saves so many documents. But the concept's there. You can see here if a test fails, it'll tell you, for example, test copy database only failed because it's not implemented. That's the only reason. So tests can run, so this code is shared. All the test actual running code is in a framework I wrote. And then I just have to write the UI to show the test running. So the answer is there tests for the bridge? Yes. They're already written. And I just need to write some UI to show the results. And that's it. And that was the smart thing about how we built our framework, is that we built it in a way that I could get all the tests shared for free. All the database tests are here. They're shared. They do use an open source library called Chai, which is super old, but it works on both React Native and on React Web. And that's the reason why I picked it. And then I have a wrapper around Chai that kind of does the more complicated things for me. Let's see here. I don't like the fact that I have to pass in null for that. And that's bugging me a little bit. Give me a second here. That's not a great experience. Let's go back and see if I can fix that real quick. Yeah, I'd have to do a method overload, but this is a function overload. But the problem is, I could do that. No, let's just keep it like this for right now. If I did that, it'd be kind of confusing because I couldn't do a default anymore, and then you'd have to select which one you want. And I can have one called the other, like you can in C#, but yeah, we'll just keep it like this for right now. We'll keep it simple. And then we get a result set, so then we have to loop through the result set and serialize it. So what we want to do is make some kind of dictionary, right? So we'd have to say const I'm trying to think here. Dic equals array, because then I think I can just do dict push. I can. Okay. Just want to make sure I can. Like I said, don't work in too many different languages, and I cannot always remember the syntax of each. But okay. So now what we want to do is we're going to do a for each loop. So we can do a for loop. We'll say for result in results. Am I using results somewhere else? No, it's not. I have to tell it it's a const. I have to say of. That's right. And then put a space here. And now what I can do is for each one of the results, I can just say, I think I can make a new string. We'll just say dict.push, a new string. Oop. What we can say? We want to stringify that, right? So we need a JSON stringify. Wait, is JSON not available? Oh, it is. Stringify result. Why is that not working? I just want it like this. Dude, just take that. Be happy with that. Actually, I don't even need this. I can just do this. Is this just string? Is this just now the prettier beam man? There we go. So I can just push the this into a dictionary. So then we should define this as results need to be a string, set of strings. So I can just say string. This because that's what results need to be. Fix the prettifier, and then I can just return the dict. And that should do it. I'm gonna return that, fix that. That should be magic sauce right there. Yeah, I just want to show the JSON results because really on the average app, you would take these results and you do something with them, right? You'd put in some kind of model, then you would draw them on the screen or whatever, right? I have no idea what you're going to run also for the query, so I have no idea what the data is even going to look like coming back. I just know it's JSON data. And so because of that, I want to make this as simple as possible for just showing off that the results work. Now, the only problem with this I have is that if I run the query multiple times, I'm not going to know the difference between each. So really, I take that back. I really should do a string in here. And I should at least give it something like a timestamp or something so you know when this ran. Const date equals new date. Let's do new date to ISO string. And then we'll add date in there. So we'll say, we'll do some string interpolation. Like that. That way, if you run multiple queries, you can at least see the date of which one was ran. And then we'll also do this. We'll wrap the JSON around some brackets like this so that we know that that's the JSON data. This is more of like a log screen kind of thing. We're not going to get super complicated in our showing it off. There's no guarantee of the ID on it, to tell you the truth. There's no key or anything because it's just a query. That should work. All this, that should be what it takes here. And TB Gamer, hey, what's up, buddy? It's been a while. Hope you're doing great. Happy to see you on the stream. Hopefully life is going good for you. Man, I was talking about you on Sunday on the stream. I streamed on Sunday afternoon because I copy and pasted some stuff and it went really bad for me, man. It was like a dumpster fire. And I was like, man, TBD Gamer told me don't copy and paste. This is what happens when you copy and paste. It was like total karma hit. And I was just like, I should listen to him. I should not be copy and pasting, man. this is gonna kill me. And it literally, it was like, it was one of those bugs where you copy and paste, and it's like an hour to figure out that you copy and paste and forgot to change one little character. It was something singular versus plural. And literally, I looked at it and it looked right, and I realized, oh no, that's right, it's wrong. And that word should be singular, not plural. And if you go watch Sunday stream, you'll see that I even call you out saying, man, he was right. What am I doing with my life? Yeah. Let's see here. So technically speaking, magic sauce, this should technically speaking work. There it is. There's our query screen now in a JSON document. That's wrong. That should say query. And we need a divider. We need a divider there. I don't remember the styling for a divider. And TBD, now I'm getting scared because TBD Gamer's on here, and I'm about to go cut and paste the style of a divider because I'm super lazy and don't want to look it up. I have it somewhere in this code. Where's my components at? Those are pages. Where's components? Here's components. I know that the editor action form has a divider in it. That's the divider I want. Pretty close. I'll probably have to tweak it. But that'll get me halfway there. There needs to be a divider between this and this. Actually, there's a better way of doing it. That actually looks like hot garbage. 1 second. I bet you that looks like hot garbage. Yeah, what we should do is a header instead. A header view. Let's take that back out. I was wrong. I was wrong. We want to do a query. Header view. We want to say header view and that, and it's going to take two. Well, first we have, oop, shit. Pardon my French. Let's see here. Context action. We need to import header view. Yep. And it needs two things. It needs a name, and we'll call this query editor, and then we need an icon for it. And I don't remember the icon name for query. Let's go look at one for one. Let's see here. Where is my listing of icons? Oh boy, where is it? It's somewhere in here. I'm using the icons from material community. Let's see if there's a query right now. Oh, that I'm not using that. Let's see if there's a search icon I can use real quick here. I would bring it on screen, but man, it's so bright. This may hurt your eyes. I'll bring it on screen just so you guys can see. This is the page, though. Look how bright that is. Oop. Bring it back. Come back. Baby, come back. Let's see here. So here it is. And this is the all the icons I can use. And so normally I just go look and find one. Let's see here. Yeah, card search. Not really what I'm looking for. File search would be, oh, right here. Database search outline. Look at you guys. Look at you guys coming to save me. Material. You know what? These guys are super awesome. I can't say enough cool things about these. Database stash search is the icon I need. And it's designed just for databases. It's almost like they wrote that for me. Whoever did that, you have a special place in my heart. Because you are going to make my UI look cool. Let's see here. And there we go. We have a little query editor here. We've got we can say test one, select star from test1.test1. Ah, database is not open. What? Maybe we haven't ran this in a while. Let's open a database. We open a database. Let's go to query editor, test1. Select star from test1. That's our scope and collection. Okay, well, now we get the magic of debugging why the hell this doesn't work. Cannot read property data of undefined. So that means there could be a couple different places this is broke. It could be in the query that we had in Swift, or it could be in the results coming back. So this is where we need to go debug it a little bit. So my recommendation is start in the middle, and I'm going to start in Swift then. I'm going to make the assumption that the data is getting to Swift semi-right. And so then I'm going to put a breakpoint in right here. to figure out what's going on. Now, how do we debug Swift applications in React Native is a good question. We've got to attach the debugger. So we should only have one version of the app running. And if I attach to the app running already, it will allow me to attach the Swift debugger to it. Or the Xcode debugger. And once the Xcode debugger is attached, it does take a few seconds. You can see it says attaching, now it says running. That means now, anytime I put a breakpoint in the Swift code, it will catch it over here. So let's go ahead and get plus, and we're not getting there. So that's a bad sign. Let's do up here. And try a breakpoint there and see what happens. Okay, now, if we're not getting the Swift, there's two things going on. Either the debugger's not running right, or not calling things properly. So now we got to get a little bit more complicated here. We're going to shake and tell the JavaScript debugger to open up. And we're going to look at this from a JavaScript standpoint and see if we can see what's going on that side. So we want our Expo example app, and we're going to start with the service and check the service for query to see what it's getting to start out with. So let's see here. Actually, we should probably check here also and see what's coming and going. So let's go ahead and click the button here again. And so let's see what's going on here. So query, what are we getting back for our three things? So if we look here, this is our scope. Our scope will tell us what we have in memory first, currently, which is cool. Let's see here. Yes, I'm live on Twitch. Usually I'm live on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, if I remember right, those three. And I used to stream live to Facebook also. So I do have separate chat for each one of those, and I answer questions from both. I haven't got a plugin that actually converts the chat so it's all in one yet, which kind of sucks. Yes, there is chat going on from all over the place here. Let's see here. So this is our scope right here, and our scope of local variables is what we want to look at. So you can see here the query string is right. The query string is a select star from test one. That's right. Parameters are set to known. That's what I wanted. And there is no result set because it hasn't ran yet. Parameters shouldn't work, so because they are null. So we can just step through this. Actually, we can just step through this. No, I said step through. So this should get a result set back. So let's actually put a breakpoint here instead. So the reason why I put the breakpoints in like I do is because it's async code and sometimes the debugger gets lost. Okay, so we're not returning back. If we're not returning back, that means this is throwing an exception, which means it would be in our page. So let's go back here, kill this, and this, and this, and find our page and see if we can see what the exception is. So an app, query, ++, we should be able to see that we're getting an error right here. And we should be able to put a breakpoint there, run it again. And we are getting the error. Okay, so it's a type error. Not read property data of undefined. Okay, that would mean... Interesting. So we never made it to here. We ran result, and result bombed back. Yeah. It's interesting that it's export router that's running the error though. That makes no sense to me why it would be having the error. And we are at this line. so let's look at query then. So here we have query execute. Where's query execute? I go too far. Change listener parameter execute here. The breakpoint here. So what is query results set to? Undefined. So it came back. Huh. That's weird. I don't think I've ever had this where the promise is getting swallowed. So it definitely called. Oh. This may be a problem. Okay, parameter is empty. That's not a problem. So the query is getting executed, but it's throwing back an exception before we even get to data here, because you can see this is undefined. If query is undefined, that means that the promise died in query, which means we need to check the bridge to find out why. And so if we go to the bridge, oh, what a vicious world we live in, folks. What a vicious world we live in. Take a look what's going on here. I forgot to rebuild. All right. So here's the problem. If I change any code, this is a vicious world we live in. All right. How to explain this? Expo is an app right here that I'm running, right? But the problem is the framework code is outside of the Expo app, okay? Expo has no idea. The framework code here in this source folder is a node module that gets built, okay? So because of the fact that Expo has no idea about the node module, if you don't rebuild the node module, the code in here that is the module is old code. I changed all the code with the implementation. All that Swift coding changes stuff, Expo has no idea that it exists. The only thing Expo knows has changed is the UI code. So the answer to this is how you fix this is that you have to stop it from running. You CD out to the main repo. This is where the module itself lives, and you do an npm build. npm run build to be more exact. TBD Gamer, you love this part. This is Bob the Builder. That's literally the name of the build tool inside of React Native. Bob the Builder comes out. Where's Bob here? We'll see here. Verbose logging. Here's Bob build. Bob is doing some building stuff, and then he builds it. And that's the first part of it. And then the next thing in the Expo app, because we changed native code, we changed the bridge code, we have to tell it to pre-build again. So we have to do an npm run pre-build. We should probably do clean on the pre-build because the fact that we changed the code, you can see the working tree is dirty. We changed Swift code, so we have to tell it to clear the iOS and Android code and get the new version that we just changed from the original native module. And that's what pre-build does. And so you can see here the npm commands I wrote are just really calling Expo commands. But I don't remember the Expo command, so I just usually throw them in inside of an npm, the package file, and that way I don't have to remember them. I just type in my normal things, and it does whatever it needs to for me. This is a pack a lunch moment because this is installing the Cocoa Pods, and anybody that has done mobile development will tell you Cocoa Pods, especially in React Native, take forever because there is like about a gazillion of them. I think we counted on one of the streams. There's 78 Cocoa Pods, and we also have to make sure that Xcode's not open. Close Xcode, close. I've done this in the stream before and explained it too. You can't have Xcode open when it's installing the Cocoa Pods, because the Xcode, the whole project gets deleted and gets recreated dynamically. It's kind of a mess, to tell you the truth. Now you can reopen the project. And the reason why, if you look at it, this is bonkers. This blows most people's mind once they see it. If you look at the CocoaPod file, okay, anybody that's done development has seen a CocoaPod file before, right? If you look at this is all like, what the hell's going on here? There's all this stuff about use native modules. There's not a single definition to a CocoaPod file. How does this work then? It's code generated, folks. And so you have to close Xcode because it's going to generate dynamically a CocoaPod file, and then install all the stuff that's needed. Which means in order for this magic to work, I have something called this plugin here that dynamically builds a CocoaPod file for my plugin based on a CocoaPod file that I have. This is something that Expo provides. It's like an SDK for how to build that dynamic CocoaPod file. You have to read the docs on this and that, but that's what this basically does, is build that CocoaPod file dynamically based on my needs. Now that that's done, and I've got everything built and everything knows about the new code, now we can run and it won't show undefined. I have to laugh, man. Undefined because the fact that the code, the biggest bug of all, the code that is not on the device that I changed. That's a bug, to say the least. So we'll tell Expo to build, and Expo is going to run it on iOS. It's going to go through and redo the build and stuff. And now we can debug and see what happens for real this time. And cross my fingers, it's much better because it's 4 after 5, and I do have to get it off the stream here in a little bit. I've been going for 2.5 hours, and I do have some stuff I have to get done tonight, outside of this for work. Someone was having a good day when they made it, but can he fix it? This is not bad. This is not bad. This is the normal crap of like this whole entire project of writing a React Native module has been like this really weird world of like hot reload not working for like the native module side of things, which is really kind of weird because you get used to like the UI being hot reloaded in the sense that you change the UI code and it dynamically updates. And so you're just like, well, geez, if I change the native code, shouldn't that work too? Nope. You have to rebuild from scratch. And that's really because Expo is a wrapper, a native wrapper around your JavaScript code. It's just part of, yeah. Ionic's a lot easier. I'll tell you that right now. If you're a web developer, Ionic's pretty easy. I mean, it's awesome. It's the most core basic way of doing anything. And honestly, I wrote a framework for that back in just a couple months ago, and I enjoyed it. It's not bad. It's got its own set of problems, but it's not too bad. So let's go into query editor now here and see test one, and we want to say select star from test one. Actually, we should go back and make sure that works first. Let's go get a list of collections. Test one. Okay, so there is a collection there. Just want to make sure before we have other. Select star from test one. There's our data. There's our data from the database. It works on the box. Look at that. No defects. What? No defects. I like Ionic. So what I know that capacitor, yeah, right. There is like for enterprise support for some of their stuff, can about to be expensive. Our capacitor plugin's free, and I don't know like the pricing of capacitor, like what you can use, not use of the enterprise versus not. But our capacitor plugin is free if you have a Couchbase enterprise license, right? I mean, obviously our enterprise database, you have to have some kind of cloud service to use it. So it's from that standpoint, sure, you have to have a Couchbase license, but it doesn't cost you any more than the Couchbase license already costs you. But this is kind of cool. So here's my data. Now, what I should probably be doing though is you can't tell the difference between one line and another. There's no divider. So we should fix that real quick because this looks like hot garbage. It looks like a bunch of cool data, but it's like I can't tell when a new record begins and ends. That's my fault because I wrote the result. So there's a component here called the result list view. And this is the problem here. It's a scroll view. It has a header. Tech. Yeah, I don't remember why it has a scroll view now because some of the pages aren't scrollable. But then what should happen here is after each text, we should have a divider. And then we have to import divider. Oh boy, I don't remember which library I'm using that from. Let's go find one where I'm using divider. If I copy it from here and use it, it knows the import. My IDE, and then I don't have to do this. At least it should. Yeah, see, it came from GlueStack. Oh, let's see. Why is this mad now? Oh, I have to prettify it. It's still mad. Why are you still mad? Why is it mad? Oh. There we go. And if we go back to our view, look at that. We've got dividers. See that? Look at our little dividers. Look how easy that was. And I don't like the left margin. That needs to be 4. And now go back and take a look. Oh, that needs to be 2. Ionic's cool. I like Ionic. Ionic is basically open source version of Cordova, or it's a closed source. It's a open source version. Like it's an upgrade to Cordova. Is the best way to say it, without being rude. It's better than Cordova by leaps and bounds. I think it's pretty great. From a programmer standpoint, this is a TBD gamer. He's over on Twitch. He may be able to speak more to this, but here's my personal opinion on programming. Stop learning syntax of languages and learn concepts. Concepts will drive you through any language you want to learn. It doesn't matter if you're doing Kotlin, Swift, C#, Java, C++, whatever. If you understand core basic computer science concepts, you can learn any language. It's just a syntax when it comes down to it. And that's, you'll see me. I go through so many different languages in a single day. It's not funny. And sometimes I get them messed up. Sometimes I forget one language syntax versus another, but like I know what nullable means. I know what a nullable is. And I have to just figure out, like, in this language, what is the syntax for doing a nullable, right? I know what unwrapping or unboxing means. You know, that's just basically taking something that is of a generic type, or unwrapping in Swift specifically is about taking something that could have been nullable and making it, no, I want the concrete, not null. Show me the real version of that object. To get rid of the possibility of it being null. And .NET unboxing is more about typecasting. You basically take a generic and you bring it down to its real type. But really, the biggest thing is learn skills, computer science skills. Understand the concept of how computer science works, because once you understand that, it doesn't matter what language your job is. It doesn't matter what they hire you to do. You'll just figure it out, right? You know, I mean, I have only written one React Native module before, and that was back in 2019, so 5 years ago. And since then, the whole entire React world has changed. But in less than a month, I have a native module almost done. With very, you know, I know the concepts of React. I understand how it works. I understand Fiber, its rendering engine, and what it's bringing to the table. I understand how it's replacing nodes and how it draws. And so because of that, learning React Native was pretty easy because I already know how React works. And then really React itself is just a very simple concept of like a tree drawing algorithm. And so if you look at other ones out there, they're not all that crazy different. And you take that basic knowledge, right? Once you understand how trees work, understanding how the drawing tree and React work, well, geez, if you understand data structures, that's not really all that hard to learn. But if you didn't know how trees work and you're trying to wrap your mind around like how React fibers draws nodes and figures out what branches of the tree do that need to be rendered. Oh boy, that's a pack a lunch moment, right? So that's why core basic data structure, core basic computer science concepts will always win. Because once you know those, you look at the React documentation, like how fibers and trees work, and you're going, well, that ain't all that crazy complicated. I understand it. I don't have to like read every line of the code. I understand the concept, and that's going to be more enough for me to be efficient at writing React apps then. That's the key, right? There's too many React developers that only know React. They don't know JavaScript or TypeScript. They don't really understand what they're doing, and they just assume React is magic. And if you're that kind of developer, you need to get off the magic. It's not magic, right? And you're probably having rendering problems because if you don't understand really behind the scenes how React works and how I'll give you the primary example is that most people don't realize that it's doing reference. When you take a look at a component before and after, what it's doing is it's looking at the reference. And if the reference of the object that it's looking at, we'll just say it's a component, is the same, then it doesn't re-render it, because the pointer hasn't changed. It's the same object, right? People think it's the value inside of it. And it's like, nobody cares about the value inside of it. It's a stack and heap thing. It just cares about the freaking pointer itself. So you have to change the pointer if you want it to basically re-render. That is the core concept of it, right? And that's core concept computer science stuff. Everybody has a stack and heap, folks. That's how it works. Every language, every framework, a stack is a set of memory address in a row, like a stack of books. And then if there's something that's small, that's like a struct, it can fit right on the stack. You throw it right in memory over there, and it's great. But if it's really big, then you have to go over to the heap. And what happens is the stack has a reference pointer to where it really is over in the heap. And that's a stack and heap in core concepts. If you understand this, you're going to be great as a programmer. If you don't, life will be bad for you. React really is hugely amount. You really have to understand the stack and heap for React if you want to really understand like how it figures out whether or not it should redraw a component or not. But anyways, I am unfortunately, hey Nick, how's it going? I hope that things are going good for you today. I'm just about to close the stream down. It's been 2.5 hours, but I have to get going. As Nick, as you know, I got D&D tonight, and I got to prep for D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. My campaign, my weekly campaign is at 6 o'clock. And I have like 2 hours to like less than 2 hours to figure out where the heck they're going tonight. They got some pirate stuff I've got to figure out. They're about to battle some pirates. So I don't think they're watching this stream, but yeah, they've walked themselves into a bar and they've picked a fight with some pirates, which is not a good idea for them. And so I've got to figure out like what these pirates are going to do about that. And they may get their butts kicked. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. I don't remember how I built the pirates because I mean, I'm the dungeon master, so I decide all these things. I don't remember the personality of the pirates. I gotta go look at my notes. I should do a stream where I just try to explain like how I DM a session before and after. That would be kind of fun now that I think about it. For like, hey, if you want to learn like this is how Dungeons and Dragons works or how I prep for a I should do that. Maybe I should just shut this stream down and start a new stream so that I can archive this to YouTube, and I just go through my notes of like how I do Dungeons and Dragons. I'm gonna do that. What the hell? Okay, guys, I'm gonna be back in a couple minutes. For those of you that are watching video on demand on YouTube, I know that's really popular. Once again, I get it. You can watch in XXX speed. Thanks for watching. I'm usually online every couple of days. I will definitely be streaming tomorrow because I need to get Explain working. I don't know if I'll be streaming Friday because I have a bunch of meetings on Friday. I'm going to try streaming. And then on Sundays, I try to stream also. But it will probably be tomorrow morning. It will be earlier in the morning, probably is my guess, and over in the Americas, which would be in the afternoon, the late afternoon over in Europe and India and stuff. I try to do a morning stream so that the Indian folks, I have a couple people from India on my team and they like to watch, so I want to make sure that they can watch it. And then Friday is going to be up in the air because I got I got 2 meetings in the morning, and it'd have to be an afternoon stream like this. There could be a very good possibility of a stream at the same time I did today because it'd be right after the same meeting I had today I would start the stream. So probably on Friday afternoon also. I am going to continue doing this. I have to get the inquiry. I've got to get the parameters tested, and then I have to get Explain working, which is really easy. That can be done in 20 minutes. And then I got to get Replicator working. And that, if you want to pack a lunch moment to see like some super complicated stuff, oh, Replicator stream will be the most complicated thing I do. It's the most complicated thing in the entire product. Replicator allows you to replicate database information between your mobile app and your cloud database provider, which is us, which is Capella, and it will replicate information in real time. And if you're offline, it queues it and then it replicates. It does a bunch of magic for you. And unfortunately, magic is complicated. And there's a lot of stuff that has to be tested. So that do that. All right, man, TDB Gamer, you head out, enjoy yourself. I'm going to close the stream down, like I said, so I can archive it to YouTube because this goes work points to this. I'm going to start another stream up with Dungeons & Dragons. So, folks, you guys, thanks for everybody, and I'll be back in a few minutes.